And speaking of state law violations, I am so excited to now get to my favorite one of those, which is out of Georgia. I love this one because there are tapes. Oh lordy, there are tapes. On Saturday, January 2nd, Donald Trump and some of his lawyers had a recorded phone conversation with the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. During that phone conversation, Trump tried to convince, persuade, threaten, bully Raffensperger into changing the result of the Georgia presidential election by quote-unquote finding more votes for Trump. The backstory of this phone call is that Trump filed a court action to challenge the results of the election in Georgia, which, as you know, came out for Biden. Trump advanced a bunch of theories about how the election was stolen, and it's based on a bunch of stuff coming straight from 4chan and Q Anon. Allegations that people stuffed the ballot boxes with votes for Biden, claims that voters were turned away from the polls and they were definitely going to vote for Trump, claims that ballots were shredded and were never counted and they were definitely all votes for Trump. All of this stuff, by the way, was investigated by the federal government and the Georgia government, and there was no evidence found for any of it. Trump, therefore, was losing his challenge in court, so he was just directly appealing to the Georgia Secretary of State to allow Trump's own people to get a hold of the records, like the actual ballots and all. And this is why Trump and his lawyers got on the phone with the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and also the Secretary of State's General Counsel, Ryan Germany. And for about an hour, Trump and his lawyers did their best finagling, and spoiler alert, it did not work. Didn't work on Raffensperger, who, by the way, is a Republican, very much a Republican. So is the general counsel, who was also on the phone, Ryan Germany. Ryan Germany was like the leader of his law school's Federalist Society and stuff. He has been entrenched in the Republican administration of Georgia for several years. I seriously doubt that anyone who was on any end of that phone call had actually wanted Biden to win. The thing is, though, Trump said stuff during this phone call that could very well constitute a crime under several laws, including Georgia Code Section 21-2-604, which prohibits criminal solicitation to commit election fraud. Let's get to the recording of this phone call because it is just off the damn rails.
If we could just go over some of the numbers, I think it's pretty clear that we won. We won very substantially, Georgia. You even see it by rally size, frankly. We'd be getting 25,000, 30,000 people a rally. And
starting off strong, Trump makes the argument from rally size. I had, so he says, thousands of idiots show up to see me in person before the election, so how could I have lost Georgia? And that's clearly what happened based on the rally size. So how's about you just say you were wrong and recertify this election for Trump? Sadly, that argument didn't get the reaction Trump had hoped for, so he kept going.
We had at least 18,000, that's on tape. We had them counted very painstakingly. 18,000 voters having to do with Ruby Freeman. She's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer. And
professional vote scammer, you say? Tell me more. I want to know all about this career path. I am currently unemployed, as you know.
We're so far ahead of these numbers. Even the phony ballots of Ruby Freeman, known scammer. You know the internet? You know what was trending on the internet? Where's Ruby? Because they thought she'd be in jail. Where's Ruby? It's crazy. It's crazy. That was the minimum number is 18,000 for Ruby, but they think it's probably about 56,000. But the minimum number is 18,000 on the Ruby Freeman night, where she ran back in there when everybody was gone and stuffed. She stuffed the ballot boxes. Let's face it, Brad. I mean, they did it in slow motion replay, magnified, right? She stuffed the ballot boxes. They were stuffed like nobody's ever seen them stuffed before.
Like no one has ever seen them stuffed before? How much has anyone seen them stuffed before? If you know, write in and tell me, please. So to recap, Trump is saying here that someone named Ruby Freeman, whom he says is a famous professional vote scammer and balloteer, he uses that word elsewhere in the phone call, balloteer. I was like, what is a balloteer? So I looked it up, and it's not a real thing. I mean, it is a word, but it just means someone who casts a ballot. So congratulations. If you voted, and you better have, you're a balloteer. Balloteers! All for one and one for all. Trump goes on and on about this Ruby Freeman, known political operative, known balloteer. According to Trump, it was all the internet was talking about at the beginning of January. The whole internet asking, where's Ruby? Hashtag, where's Ruby? Trump says that Ruby infiltrated the State Farm Arena in Georgia, where I guess they were voting and or counting votes. And Ruby was able to create a diversion to get everyone out of the place so that she could be alone with the voting machines and all the ballots. And then on camera, Trump claims, because this Ruby is real good but not quite good enough to cover up the webcam, the video shows that Ruby stuffs the ballot boxes. Trump says he has footage, magnified and in slow motion, of Ruby Freeman stuffing Biden votes into the machines. Trump says it might be 18,000 or 56,000 or some number in between, give or take a few thousand, but it's on the video in slow motion, magnified. Apparently neither slow nor magnified enough to tell whether it's 18,000 or 56,000, but it's some number, he says, that's definitely more than 11,000 and whatever, which is the number that Trump lost the state of Georgia by. 11,779 to be exact, which is why Trump says over and over again to the Georgia Secretary of State, just find me 11,780 votes. I just need 11,780 votes. And Trump, in case you hadn't guessed it, is so full of shit about this. He knows. There's nothing to this Ruby Freeman story. Yet he repeats over and over on this phone call that just Ruby Freeman gets him enough votes to win the election, which would be true if something actually happened. But it didn't. Think about it. If someone was caught on video cheating the vote machines, they would be in jail right now. The Department of Justice would be prosecuting them, and Trump's court challenge of the Georgia election results would come out much differently. What in fact happened was that good old Rudy Giuliani took the video from the State Farm Arena and then heavily edited it to try and make it look like this ballot stuffing took place. Very similar, actually, to the incident several years ago when someone had tried to make it look like Planned Parenthood was illicitly selling baby parts and they just chopped up the video, manipulated it. Giuliani did the same sort of thing with the video from the State Farm Arena ballots. He fudged the video, he presented it to Georgia legislators to try and convince them that voter fraud had taken place, and he went on TV with Sean Hannity to talk about it.
Here's what's fascinating.
4 or 5 days.
Well, I'm watching all of this very close. I watched Georgia today very closely, this video. Then we got the case in Wisconsin. And then we got the case in Nevada. And then if the Supreme Court ever takes constitutional arguments of Pennsylvania, we have a real constitutional shot, in my opinion. You go wherever you.
Oh, we have a real good shot. I mean, today's video was really explosive because it puts the lie to the fact there's no evidence. First of all, there are about 5,000 affidavits now, so there's plenty of evidence. We've presented over the last 4 days about 100 witnesses. And today, in addition to very many compelling witnesses showing about 100,000 or more illegal ballots in the state of Georgia, we presented 4 videotapes from 4 security cameras showing the Democrats throwing the Republicans out, claiming there was a water main break, which is a lie. Once the Republicans left, they took ballots out from under a table where they had it hidden, looked like thousands and thousands of ballots, and while the Republicans weren't there all night, counted the ballots. That's on tape. I want you to watch it. It proves what crooks they are, what thieves they are. It proves it It proves everything we've been saying and everything the president has been saying. See that? That happens to be on tape. That was going on in 6 other places. That was going on in Pennsylvania. It was going on in Pittsburgh. It was going on in Wisconsin. It was going on in Michigan, in Detroit, Michigan. It's going on in Phoenix, Arizona.
You know,
and it's
if
going
you look
on big time in Atlanta, Georgia.
If you look
can't argue with that, Sean.
Sorry.
So what about that? Well, when investigators went back and looked at all the footage unedited, they found nothing out of order. And during the phone call between Trump and the Georgia Secretary of State, you'll hear the Secretary of State call this out, saying that Giuliani manipulated the video, and you won't hear Trump denying that. Trump just keeps harping on about Ruby Freeman over and over again, basically trying to wield the power of suggestion. This was fraud. This was fraud. If I say it enough times, you'll believe that there is some fire to go with this smoke that I'm blowing out my ass.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about the State Farm video, and I think it's extremely unfortunate that Rudy Giuliani or his people, they sliced and diced that video and took it out of context. So the next day we brought in WSB TV and we let them see the full run of tape. And what you'll see, the events that transpired are nowhere near what was projected by.
And there you have it. Rudy Giuliani doctored the video, made it look like this Ruby Freeman messed with the voting machines. The machines, incidentally, are from a company called Dominion. Rudy Giuliani has been making allegations every which way about Dominion and their voting machines. He called the machines crooked, said they were used to steal the election. He said that Dominion is really a Venezuelan company and their voting machine software was originally created to help former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez fix elections. None of this is true. Dominion is actually Canadian. And surprise, surprise, Dominion has sued Giuliani for defamation, as they should. And if Giuliani can go to jail for this, he should. He has done horrible, dishonest things, manipulating evidence, making false statements. These things are about the most low-down, unethical, unprofessional things that a lawyer can do. It's a disgrace. And for Giuliani in particular, it casts a shadow of doubt over his whole career. Funny story. Giuliani made his name prosecuting mobsters in New York, most famously Tony Salerno. Giuliani is given credit for pretty much bringing down the whole New York mafia. And guess what his primary evidence there was? Recordings. What are we to think of that now? What are people he put in prison going to think of that now? Giuliani needs to be stripped of his law license and hopefully prosecuted. He has thoroughly disgraced himself and the legal profession, and that's without even talking about Borat. It does not, however, appear that Rudy Giuliani participated in this phone call with the Georgia Secretary of State, but Trump had other lawyers there representing him.
I will tell you, I've seen the tape, the full tape. So has Alex. We've watched it. And what we saw and what we've confirmed in the timing is that they made everybody leave. We have sworn affidavits saying that. And then they began to process ballots. And our estimate is that there were roughly 18,000 ballots. We don't know that. If you know that.
It was 18,000 ballots, but they used each one 3 times.
Well, I don't know about that, but I know.
Well, I do because we had ours magnified out.
That was attorney Cleta Mitchell, at least it was at first until Trump interrupted and talked over her. Trump hired Mitchell apparently to the surprise of her law firm, Foley & Lardner, where she was a partner until she resigned 3 days after this call. When this recording went public, the firm was really, really surprised that Cleta Mitchell was involved, or at least they pretended to be surprised. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they just never thought that anyone would ever know that this happened. Or maybe they were like, what the hell were you thinking, Cleta? You worked for Trump? Don't you know he never pays his lawyer bills? What's wrong with you? Anyway, Cleta Mitchell had to cut all of her ties with the law firm of Foley & Lardner, and Her profile isn't even on their website anymore, and the law firm issued a statement saying that they are concerned by Mitchell's participation in the call between Trump and the Georgia Secretary of State since, it may have violated state and federal laws. The firm says that they have a policy not to represent any party in connection with matters related to elections. Cleta Mitchell herself sent an email to her clients and friends saying that she left the firm because of what she called a massive pressure campaign mounted by leftist groups via social media and other means against her. But she said she is not giving up her efforts regarding election integrity, so look for more from her, I guess. Hope Trump pays you, Cleta, in money. Anyway, let's listen to more of the call because we haven't even gotten to the best stuff yet.
This is Ryan Germany. We had our law enforcement officers talk to everyone who was there after that event came to light. The GBI was with them as well as FBI agents.
Well, there's no way they could. Then they're incompetent. They're either dishonest or incompetent. Okay, there's only two answers: dishonesty or incompetence. There's just no way. Look, there's no way.
That was Ryan Germany, the first voice. Again, he is the general counsel for the Georgia Secretary of State. He was describing the investigation into the supposed ballot stuffing scandal. And then right before Trump comes back on, you can faintly hear Cleta Mitchell ask, well, what did they find? And Trump completely doesn't hear that because he doesn't listen to women.
There's no way I lost Georgia. There's no way. We won by hundreds of thousands of votes. I'm just going by small numbers. When you add them up, they're many times the 11,000. But I won that state by hundreds of thousands of votes. Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that? Because that's illegal.
This is Ryan Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having.
But have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines and replaced them with other parts?
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure, Mr. President.
Trump says that not only is there no way he lost in Georgia, he must have won it by hundreds of thousands of votes. And then he asks whether Dominion tampered with their own voting machines. Did they take out the inside parts and put in other parts on the inside parts? And the attorney just says, no, Mr. President, we investigated it and conclusively found it is bullshit. Sorry, Rudy Giuliani made this up out of whole cloth. I paraphrase. And then they have to try and explain to Donald Trump the difference between real news and fake news, and I don't envy them.
Mr. President, the problem you have with social media, people can say anything.
No, this isn't social media. This is Trump media. It's not social media. It's really not. It's not social media. I don't care about social, but I couldn't care less. Social media is big tech.
You heard it here. Trump gets his facts from Trump media, not social media, and he couldn't care less about social media. It's just big tech. Go ahead and ban me, Twitter. I don't care. I'm not even mad. He's mad. And he's mad in the call, too, as we are about to hear.
And I hate to imagine what's going to happen on Monday or Tuesday, but it's very scary to people, where the ballots flow in out of nowhere. It's very scary to people.
And now the threats begin. In case you have been wondering, this is what Georgia's Secretary of State had to say about all these election fraud allegations out of his own mouth.
Well, I've listened to what the president has just said. President Trump, we've had several lawsuits, and we've had to respond in court to the lawsuits and the contentions. We don't agree that you have one. I didn't agree about the 200,000 number that you mentioned, and I could go through that point by point. What we had done is we gave our state senate about 1.5 hours of of our time going through the election issue by issue. And then on the State House, the Government Affairs Committee, we gave them about 2.5 hours of our time, going back point by point on all the issues of contention. And then just a few days ago, we met with our U.S. congressman, Republican congressman, and we gave them about 2 hours of our time talking about this past election.
There you have it from Secretary Raffensperger himself. And again, he is a Republican who would have had every personal motivation to take an election from the Democrats. It's clear that he really dislikes people like Stacey Abrams, as shown on the Georgia Secretary of State's website, where they post press releases that directly trash her. But this guy is not about to involve himself in an election fraud scandal. Certainly not one spearheaded by Donald Trump. Even if Raffensperger wasn't honest, he would be smarter than that. You heard him say to Trump, look, we investigated every one of these allegations. We found no substantiation for them. We explained it point by point to the court. We explained it point by point to the state representatives. It's nonsense. Trump, as you would expect, does not accept that. He just continues to rattle on about how there are thousands and thousands of missing ballots. In Trump's narrative, any missing ballots would be votes for him, and any fraudulent ballots would be votes for Biden. So all that needs to be done is to find about 12,000 Trump votes.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country, because, you know, it's a testament that they can admit to a mistake, or whatever you want to call it, if it was a mistake. I don't know. A lot of people think it wasn't a mistake. It was much more criminal than that.
And then here comes the part that's probably the most illegal on the part of Trump.
They're going around playing you and laughing at you behind your back, Brad. Whether you know it or not, they're laughing at you. And you've taken a state that's a Republican state, and you've made it almost impossible for a Republican to win because of cheating, because they cheated like nobody's ever cheated before. And I don't care how long it takes me. You know, we're going to have other states coming forward pretty good. But I won't. This is never given. We have some incredible talent. Said they've never seen anything. Now, the problem is they need more time for the big numbers, but they are very substantial numbers. And I think you're going to find that they, by the way, a little information, I think you're going to find that they are shredding ballots because they have to get rid of the ballots because the ballots are unsigned. The ballots are corrupt. And they're brand new and they don't have seals. And there's a whole thing with the ballots, but the ballots are corrupt. And you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. I don't know. Look, Brad, I have to find 12,000 votes, and I have them times a lot, and therefore I won the state. That's before we go to the next step, which is in the process of right now, And I watched you this morning, and you said, well, there was no criminality, but I mean, all of this stuff is very dangerous stuff. When you talk about no criminality, I think it's very dangerous. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. We have that in spades already, or we can keep it going. But that's not fair to the voters of Georgia because they're going to see what happened.
In my opinion, based on what I've heard, They're shredding ballots. They're cheating like no one has ever cheated before. And if you let it happen, that's a crime, and it's a big risk for you. What Trump just said was that he is going to have his talented people find evidence that people were shredding ballots in Georgia, and they were moving machines, and the Secretary of State for Georgia and the state's lawyers knew or should have known, but they looked the other way. And once this evidence comes to light, they'll be in big trouble. That's essentially the threat that Trump made. And now what he is asking for in order to prevent that, I just want to find 11,000 ballots. Just admit you made a mistake. That's a real testament to the country that you can admit you made a mistake. I mean, I've never admitted a mistake, but I hear it's a nice thing to do. We'll just call it a mistake, even though a lot of people are saying it was a crime you guys did.
Why don't you want to find this, Ryan? What's wrong with you? I heard your lawyer is very difficult, actually, but I'm sure you're a good lawyer. You have a nice last name.
Weirdest statement in the whole phone call. You have a nice last name? What does that mean? At first I thought, like, is that some kind of Jew-related comment? Does the lawyer have a Jewish last name? And Trump is implying, like so many people do, that a Jewish last name is what you want in a lawyer? Hey, don't come at me. I don't make the rules. Jewish last name. Just saying. But the lawyer on the phone's last name is Germany, so what the hell does Trump mean by nice last name? You have a last name that's the same as the country famous for killing millions of Jews and other minorities. No offense, German listeners, I know it wasn't you. But I am scared by that statement. So will the state of Georgia prosecute Donald Trump for solicitation to commit election fraud? If you ask me, they definitely should. There are some lawyers who are saying, nah, you can't prove it, because there is not enough evidence that Trump had this state of mind where he intended to do this wrongful thing. And I say, poppycock, horse apples. Enough with all this ridiculous special treatment of the Trumps. It's like for the rest of us, the justice system presumes that we intended to do the things we did. And if we want to say otherwise, then the burden of proof is on us. But with the Trumps, well, Thomas Smith from Serious Inquiries Only put it really well. With the Trumps, it's like they can't be touched unless there's evidence, like a notarized statement that says, I solemnly swear I am up to no good, and then they could be nailed for state of mind. Come on. Trump isn't the president anymore. Prosecutors, I'm talking to you. You can get him like you got Manafort and Cohen and Stone. Do your damn job. You love to put people in prison. You live for it, don't lie. Prosecutors, send your complaints to @habeashumor on Twitter or put them in the YouTube comments. The people want justice, damn it, and entertainment. Because a Trump criminal trial will be the best television ever, and I will subscribe to whatever streaming service covers the whole thing, and I will hole up in my bedroom with a box of wine and a case of Hot Pockets, and that will be the last you see of me until the jury comes back with a verdict.